This is the solution to the Space Cats challenge with GIMP. The challenge was to create a picture that integrated these two images of cats with this picture of an interstellar body. Here is one cat, Zoe. Here is the other cat, Simon. And here is the picture of the stars. In order to accomplish this, the key is to use what's known as the path tool. The path tool is this one right here, which looks like a pen and with a series of dots next to it. I'll show you how to accomplish this. First step is if you take this picture, let's create another layer, a transparent layer. And what we're going to do is on the main image, let us use the path tool. We're going to click around the body of the cat. You can zoom in to get greater precision. Notice that with the path tool it is possible to make curves, but for the purposes of our demonstration here we're just going to make straightish lines. We're tracing around the body of the cat. You can use the control key and the roller on your mouse in order to zoom in and out. Notice that we're not capturing the fine detail here, although there are techniques that you can use in order to capture fine detail. You can look up the topic of layer masks for more information on that. So we're just tracing around the body of Zoe here, getting her tail now, zooming out, holding down control, and here we go. So to get around, I'm just going to zip around. So notice we're on the layer of the picture. We've got the dots around there that have been selected using the path tool. What we're going to do now is select from path. You'll know that the selection is taking place because you'll see these moving dots, the marching ants, where all the path has been. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go copy, and then in the transparent layer that we've just created, I'll create a new one just to be sure. So if I click this, I'm going to create a transparent layer. We'll call it Isolation of Cat Zoe. And I'm going to click OK, make sure it's a transparency. Now, you'll know that it's working because if you hide the original photo, notice that the traced path is still there. And if I go Edit, Paste, it should fill in the image of the copied cat. Let's save this one. So I'm going to save this with the name Zoe the cat. You may or may not choose to save it, but I'm going to save it for the purposes of our demonstration here. We're going to do the same procedure with Simon using the path tool. Just click around the body of the cat. Now I'm going to create a new transparency. We'll call this Isolation of Cat Simon. Click OK. We now have a transparent layer. If we turn off the original layer, notice that the selection is still there. And if I go Edit, Paste, oops, that's Zoe. Let's undo that. Go to Simon again. Select from path, and then Edit, Copy. So we've copied Simon from there. And we go into this layer, turn off the background. If I go Edit, Paste, there is Simon the cat. Okay, so likewise I'm going to save that. So now that we have Simon, what we can do is I can actually copy his selection, not just from here. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to anchor this floating layer so that we just have two layers there. Again, if I want to copy this, I can go Select from Path, and because it's still there, it'll copy that. it'll select the area around the cat. I go edit, copy. Now I'm going to go to the stars and I'm going to try to paste. Now the thing to notice here is that the image of the cat is actually much bigger than the image of the stars. So what we're going to need to do is create a new layer. I'm going to call this Simon. Notice that when I did that, I actually created a new layer when I pasted, and we'll see again when I do it with Zoe. What we want to do is resize this. So to resize this layer, we're going to use the Scale tool. Click Scale, click on Simon, and notice we can actually manually key in a height proportion. It's roughly a square, so I'm going to make it, let's say, a 300 by 300 square. Click Scale. Yeah, it didn't quite work, but there's other ways we can do the scaling. I'm just going to drag him down. Click Scale. There. Now I can move Simon using the Move tool. Not sure in the original how big he was. He was fairly big. And if I want to resize him again, I can just click on it again and choose Scale. Click on it. I'll see the grid. I can actually resize it a little bit more. Click Scale. Now there's Simon. We can do the same thing for Zoe. Notice that if I did not have Zoe selected, like let's say I had closed this or was getting it from another source, if I needed to get the image of Zoe from the picture, I go to Zoe the cat. Notice it's selected. If I select from path, edit, copy, I should be able to paste Zoe as I did before, and there she is. Notice it says floating selection pasted layer. I'm going to right click and I'm going to send that floating selection to a new layer. I'm going to rename that Zoe. And as before, I can rescale this just using the Scale tool. I'll just set it to some size. I'm not too concerned about it. And I can use the Move tool to move the image of Zoe over here. Notice that she's still a little bigger than what we had originally, so I'm going to scale that down. Again, using the Scale tool. Just shrink her down a little bit. Scale, and there she is. So there you have it. The two pictures of the cats on top of the wallpaper. The secret being that both of them are sitting on a transparent background over top of the stars. This same technique can be used to transplant people from photographs into other photographs, and that I'm sure will be the topic of another video. By the way, if you want to export this, I can save the file as a GIMP file. So I'm going to call this one cats in space.xcf. XCF is the native format for GIMP, but unless you have GIMP, you wouldn't be able to read the XCF format. If you want to be able to see it as a picture, you can actually go export as, and choose to export it as a, let's say, a JPEG. Now, if you do export it as a JPEG, it's important to make sure that the file extension, the three-letter code that's at the end, matches the type of file that you want. So just adding .jpg, click export, and then it'll ask you what level of quality you want. You can actually choose to show a preview here, and it'll give you an estimation of how big that file will be. Click export, and what we should find is if we are looking at the folder, we should be able to find cats in space. And there is the picture.